Are you someone who's always tired, has a sleep schedule that changes every day, a body clock that has been broken for years? Well, you're going to want to stop that as soon as possible for a lot of reasons. But today, we're going to talk about why it's putting the immune cells at your all-important and critical bodily barriers in a really bad spot. Kind of like the state of another border right now. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today, we've got quite an interesting docket on the powwow. Diving into why, if you want to be a lean, mean, biological self-defense machine, or of a well-equipped immune patrol at your key bodily entry points, you're going to need to keep your innate biological rhythms, otherwise known as your circadian rhythms, aligned. And there's some super interesting new research, which we're going to review, highlighting one of the main reasons why. And as always, we'll close it out with a list of tactical hacks to help get your internal clock helping you already. Now, it's probably worth starting with a quick refresher with all of this terminology so we can get on the same page and truly understand the significance of this research. Because we all got to be speaking the same biological lingo here, right? So first, we'll begin with circadian rhythms, which are our innate 24-hour biological cycles governed by the day-night cycles of the Earth, or the place that every single organism that we know of evolved on. We'll save conspiracy theories for a different video. Think of these as your body's command center running on a tight schedule, sending signals based off its perceived time of day and external stimuli throughout the body to up and down regulate genetic function, and as a result, cellular and metabolic function. This is your body's innate autopilot configuration, keeping you going from a biological perspective based on pure instinct. And here's the thing. Basically, every single cellular and metabolic process follows some sort of rhythm like this. Let's use everyone's favorite hormone to hate, cortisol, as an example. Despite popular belief that this stress hormone only starts flowing when reading that passive-aggressive email, getting cut off by that a-hole on the road, scrolling the news, or simply trying to get the kids or parents to listen, it could not be further from the truth. And here's why. In a well-aligned human, this hormone runs on a circadian cycle, being strategically up and down regulated throughout the day, most notably in the early morning, as it's a scheduled cortisol spike which actually wakes us up in the morning. And the timing is all based on our natural bodily rhythms that ebb and flow with the day-night cycles of this beautiful floating rock. I mean, just imagine the consequences if we threw it totally out of whack. Staying up late, using artificial light, constantly stimulating the mind, 24/7 snacking, psychological stress galore. It'd be a nightmare. Huh? That's exactly what we're doing? Oh, but we'll get to that later. The point here was just to provide a little example on how our biological operations are programmed around these innate rhythms. Oh, and to explain why biohackers on the internet so often preach to get morning sunlight. Because it aligns and strengthens these rhythms, putting the body in a better position to have a damn day. But again, more on that later. Let's move on to our bodily barriers, which we did a full video on right here. And these are pretty straightforward. They are the distinct sites in which our body comes into contact with the outside world. The major ones being the skin, mouth, lungs, and intestines. And as you can imagine, these tissues need to be strong, reinforced with immune border patrol agents in order to keep out the non-stop siege, which is the outside microbial pathogenic world. And one of the cells that plays an oversized role in this effort is the innate lymphoid cells, or ILCs, of the immune system, having the ability to recognize pathogens and other stimuli through pattern recognition and cytokine receptors. And when they do, stimulating the release of specific cytokine proteins, which further activate the immune system to rally in the area. Now, I bring this up because these rather important barrier guards are the focal point of this new, hot off the scientific street study. Let's take a look. Researchers out of the University of Michigan explored how circadian disruptions affect the oh-so-important immune function of the gut, or as you now know, one of the biggest bodily barriers that we have, having the near-impossible job of balancing an ecosystem of trillions of microorganisms living in it. And what they found was eye-opening. Using mice, they revealed that these ILC cells, which are made in the bone marrow and then circulate to their patrol destination through the bloodstream, and might I add, naturally diminish throughout the day and as we age. Double whammy, I know. Happen to be influenced and even dictated by circadian rhythms. Discovering that ILCPs, which are the progenitor cells that go on to become LCPs, are heavily influenced by circadian factors that lead to them being active at certain times throughout the day. You don't say. Wait, but by what? Well, they observed none other than our favorite hormone to hate, cortisol. Now, using it as an example before makes sense. Finding that elevated cortisol increases the activation of a signal that keeps these immune patrol officers inside the bone marrow. And when cortisol naturally drops during the sleep phase, the signal is reversed and they are released to go out on duty. In this case, to the barrier, which is the gut. Pretty damn interesting. The authors of the study thought so too, concluding that if you mess up your circadian rhythm, you decrease ILCs in the tissue and become more vulnerable to infection and an imbalance in your microbiome. And as we both know, that is simply not something we want to happen in an area that is constantly under siege by bacteria. Now, quick reminder, this was a mouse study, and mice are not in fact humans, although some humans are rats. But we digress. That being said, I think it's a safe bet, especially with the growing mountain of literature displaying how good circadian alignment is critical for our health and longevity, that building the habits, routines, and rituals that get you properly aligned is worth starting today. So let's chat about some tactical ways to do just that. And I want to preface this section by saying that we have a deep dive on this very topic where we walk through my extensive circadian alignment routine linked in the show notes below. I also have to be brutally honest with you, which I always try to do. This circadian science is still new and emerging. And as we're gaining new insights at what seems to be on a weekly basis, strategies and recommendations continue to shift. That being said, one thing that continues to be reinforced is that most of our cells have circadian clock genes, meaning genes that are specifically up or down regulated based on these innate internal rhythms. And although the body does a pretty damn good job of keeping things on the right clock, our modern day societal norms of all over the place, eating, sleeping, scrolling, sitting, stressing, and depressing have created significant headwinds. The best example being in individuals who partake in nightly shift work or chronically living directly against these innate rhythms, displaying that disease rates in these individuals are significantly higher. So much so, the World Health Organization has classified shift work as a probable carcinogen, or something that probably causes cancer. Yikes is right. Worst part is, many people live a shift work lifestyle without having a job that requires shift work, which is what Gretchen Wieners would probably call, if she was a longevity expert rather than a mean girl, longevity suicide. Yeah. That being said, there are a number of ways to structure our habits, routines, and rituals to get our cellular self vibing like it always could. And this starts with bed and wake times. Standardizing on a consistent 8-hour sleep window between the hours of 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. is critical. Why, you ask? Simply because we've evolved to be asleep at night, with basically every single bodily system optimized to rest, recover, and detoxify during this time. And those are 3 things you don't want to mess with. So the more consistent you are with bed and wake times between this nightly window, the stronger your rhythms will be. And once you wake up, go do what the biohackers on the internet do, and use the external stimuli of natural light to send the signal throughout your body that it is officially daytime, and to upregulate daytime gene expression and bodily processes. Because even though your body kinda knows it's daytime, sunlight reinforces that it's time to kickstart your daytime biological rhythms. Thus why we have specialized receptors in our eyes specifically made to pick up light and darkness in the environment. This sends the signal to a small region in the brain right outside the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nuclei, otherwise known as our circadian control center, or master clock, from which the downstream biochemical signals will be sent throughout the rest of the body. 10 to 15 minutes of natural light in the morning will do the trick here. So take your coffee for a walk. Speaking of walking, one of the most common complaints that I get when we talk about this topic is, haha, sun, suggesting that it's either always cloudy where the individual lives or they are up before the sun. Here I often grinningly respond, do some burpees, or any movement for that matter, as movement is another activity which entrains our circadian rhythms. Think about it, we evolved moving throughout the day, not at night, so it's programmed deep in our biology to make that association. This is one of the reasons I love to do my workouts first thing in the morning. But as we know, any movement is good movement. So find a good time and get after it. Unless that is working out in the middle of the night when you should be sleeping. Don't do that. Imagine the combo of outdoor morning movement. I mean, come on. Next, we move to the third big circadian modulator, which is also conveniently modern society's pastime, eating. This activity triggers a flurry of circadian gene modulation across the entire digestive system. And from the data to date, modern circadian science seems to be suggesting that we humans are better equipped to eat and metabolize our food during the day, not into the wee hours of the night. This is the very reason why I've adopted an early eating strategy, as discussed here, to make sure that I'm well along with digestion by the time I hit the hay, allowing my body to focus on the most restorative, regenerating, detoxifying part of its 24-hour day, sleep. Lastly, let's chat about some circadian vibe killers, chronic stress being numero uno, as it's been shown to significantly disrupt the body's natural sleep-wake cycles, hormone regulation, and overall physiological function. And did I mention that lymphoid cells don't seem to be deployed to bodily barriers when cortisol is high? Oh, I did? Good. Other notable detractors here are artificial light at night, non-stop neuronal stimulation via your favorite smartphone or tablet, prescription medications, late-night stimulants and depressants such as caffeine and alcohol, and as I mentioned in the beginning, a total lack of consistency with sleep. As you can probably tell by now, these rhythms are one of those things that if you fight them, disregard them, or straight up think you're tougher than them, you're in for a rude awakening. Because there's no feeling how you're capable of feeling when you're not operating how you're capable of operating. Something that's impossible when all of your internal clocks are running on their own schedule. So might as well help them help you and start getting aligned already. Tick-tock. Oh, no, not the app. Don't do that, especially at night. Talk about circadian killers. Huh.